Ed Kemper. Ed's been a member of BNI for several years. Some of the things that Ed likes to do with his spare time are uh, mostly has to do with cars, although he is also a runner. You might have seen him on his TV show on OC16. And as he always says, if you watch it, you will double his viewership. So without further ado, here is Ed Kemper.
Aloha. For some reason, I have a very small screen. There it is. Okay. I did send to Jim Ainge some information about my talk. Did that get sent on to you, Carlos?
Yeah, and I'm very sorry, man, but he sent that yesterday, and I haven't even had time to touch my own work, so I didn't touch that at all.
Don't worry, I'm a lawyer. I can talk for hours. So what I was going to talk about are how to handle accident cases and what the process is. When I say accident cases, that could be anywhere from auto accidents to airplane accidents to those sorts of things. And if there is one, you have to initiate it by, well, first of all, you can talk to the other side if they're represented by an insurance company to see if things could be settled before you have to actually file a lawsuit. Assuming that that doesn't work, you file a lawsuit. And if your claim is under $40,000, which is pretty rare in accident cases, you can go to the district court, Hawaii District Court. That's very quick. It's less expensive, but your damages are limited to $40,000. Typically, however, if there's an insurance company on the other side, they will file for a jury. That automatically moves it to the circuit court. And sometimes, depending on who you sue, there may be what we call diversity of citizenship. That is, the plaintiff is a resident of Honolulu, the defendant, let's say, is a corporation, and it's in Delaware, which is sort of typical for the large corporations. And that means there's diversity of citizenship. And if the claim is over $75,000, it can get moved to federal district court. This law was designed way back when to protect companies and or individuals from other states from being in state courts. So it puts you in federal court. You would still have a jury, but they would also be federal jurors, but that's still state residents. It doesn't make that much difference. However, federal district court is more cumbersome, more time consuming than state court. If it's in state court, and if the damage claim is under $250,000, you go through what they call a cap arbitration before you go back to court, which is why I'm dressed like this today, because that's what I did this morning. A volunteer attorney hears the case based upon documents that are shared by the parties and by witnesses and makes a decision. The parties have the opportunity to accept that decision and end the case by either settlement or otherwise. If one party doesn't like it, they can appeal, which would send it back to the regular circuit court. However, if they don't do better than they did with the arbitration, there's a measurements based upon percentages of how the better is measured. There are penalties for making an appeal and going to court. This whole system is designed to get rid of the smaller cases because the courts were being overwhelmed. And because it's an arbitration proceeding, it's much easier and quicker for the parties to get a resolution that they can hopefully live with. However, let's say you don't like it and you do appeal it, you'll go to probably a jury trial where 12 citizens are, plus 2 alternatives, are picked. And they will make decisions on the factual issues, i.e. who was at fault, how much of the damages, et cetera, et cetera. The court instructs the jury on the law. That is, here's the law that you must follow. And there's standard jury instructions that the courts have developed over the years. And so you pick and choose among those, and also you can develop your own. And then the judge, he or she decides which ones he or she is going to give to the jury. And the jury reads the instructions, or the instructions are read to them by the judge. They follow instructions. They have a verdict form that they fill out. Was the defendant wrong in some way? If so, by what percentage? And what are the damages? And when I say what percentage is, there's the concept of contributory negligence. That is, if the plaintiff was also negligent in causing the accident and it's less than 50%, then the plaintiff gets an award, but it's reduced by the percentage the plaintiff was negligent. So if it was 25% negligent by the plaintiff and 75% to the defendant, whatever the damage award is was reduced by that 25%. If it's over 51% negligence by the plaintiff gets nothing. So you have situations where the cause of the accident is in conflict and it may be caused by both parties. You have that weighing in percentage terms of the outcome. In federal court, same rules about contributory negligence or not contributory negligence. So verdict is entered. One party doesn't like it. What happens next? You go on appeal. And in our state court system, it's the Intermediate Court of Appeals that hears the first level of the appeal. Usually if it's on a factual issue, unless it's some terrible conflict of facts, the appellate court isn't going to change anything. Usually they tend to look for legal issues that can change the outcome of a case. Most appeals fail. But if you don't like the decision by the Intermediate Court of Appeals, you have a right to ask the Hawaii Supreme Court case to look at it. There are certain situations where you can skip their intermediate court, but not many of them. And the Hawaii Supreme Court will hear your oral arguments and then make a decision. If it affirms, that's the end of the case. If it reverses with instructions, then it would go back to the trial court to follow those instructions. On the federal side, same thing. Decision by the judge or jury. You can appeal it to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, which is headquartered in San Francisco, but it will hold hearings here in Hawaii. 3 judges are picked out of, I think there's, 12 judges in the Ninth Circuit. 3 judges are picked. They make a decision. If you don't like that, you can ask for the United States Supreme Court on a petition for certiorari to upset that. Good luck on that. They get thousands of certiorari petitions and they accept maybe 125, if that. And in an accident case, they're probably not going to accept it at all because that's just something that they're not interested in. They take the meaningful, large legal issue cases that come up and not accident kinds of cases. So that's sort of a discussion of accident cases and where they go. So I had that arbitration today. That's why I have this lovely suit on, although it was done by Zoom. And we'll await the decision of the arbitrator and see what she says. It was a very cumbersome because unfortunately the defendant doesn't speak English and we had to have a translator. So we ask question, translator translates it, witness gives an answer, translator translate that back to English. So it was a very time-consuming affair. So that's it. Any questions?
Thanks, Ed. Anyone have any questions for Ed? This is your chance. He's on the hot seat. Any questions about the courts or the legal system or more about what he does. Well, if you are interested, I don't see anyone with their hand up or unmuting themselves. So if you are interested, please feel free to reach out to Ed Kemper for a one-to-one through BNI, and he will be able to do that with you. All right. Thank you, Ed, for being here. We appreciate your wisdom and knowledge.